This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We have our host, Mac, and Hall of Fame boxing writer Jack Hirsch. I am Jamie Pags, the third in the third seat. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. But that intro about Hall of Fame boxing, I mean, some shows it sounds good for, but when we do Football Sunday, you have to say student of the game of football or something. We got to mix it up a little bit. We got to mix the potion up for the viewers.
All right, so I'll start saying, all right, and last place finisher in fantasy football, Jack Hirsch.
That's it. There you go.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
That's got really a good ring to it. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
I think that would fly for a little while.
He's not in your league, right, back? He's not in your fantasy football.
Oh, I'll be honest. I am a horrible fantasy football player. Football player. I just chose my team though. We had a draft the other day. My first one. I'm only in 2 leagues this year, and we just had a draft, and I picked the first 4 picks, and then I let the computer do it because the computer's better at it than me.
Well, I'll tell you this. There's a fantasy going on at the U.S. Open, and not a betting fantasy, which is the big news of the sports world. What's your take on it, fellas?
Well, I watched the match, and she came out really good against. Obviously, we're talking about Serena Williams. Serena Williams, at 40 years old, upsets the number 2 ranked in the Open.
And that's
Kontaveit, yes, and does it pretty convincingly. She obviously, it started off they were fairly close. She won the first set 7-6, and then she fell off the middle of the match. It was like 6-2. She had gone a little bit of time without scoring a point.
Yeah.
And then came back really good, and in that third set and won 6-2 to a pretty lively crowd. Obviously, her family was in attendance. Tiger Woods was in attendance. So there was a lot of people there trying to watch because they didn't expect her to. They thought this may be her final match.
Well, you know what the U.S. Open is? It's kind of like a happening with her playing now. What tickets are going for with scalpers. You could have seen Serena years ago in the prime of her career, and it wouldn't have nearly been as hot a ticket as it is today. Not since 1991, when Jimmy Connors made his run at the U.S. Open to go to the semifinals, has a U.S. Open ticket been in such, high demand. And the longer Serena goes in this tournament, it transcends tennis. It becomes big, big news. And even people who weren't Serena Williams as fans, or even people who aren't fans of tennis altogether, are hearing about this. And it's like they're joining the party, or they're stopping to look at the parade as it goes along. And it's exciting. It's fun. It's not going to last long because in the blink of an eye, the U.S. Open is going to practically be over. And then we're going to have the memories what happened, but we want to see Serena Williams go as far as she can because it's a compelling story that reportedly this is her last tournament, and this is her farewell tour kind of. And for all that Serena Williams accomplished throughout her career with all her major victories otherwise, and being the consensus number 1 woman tennis player of all time, I don't think we really fully appreciated her. Maybe it's because of her level of dominance, that she was so dominating, she never even had a rival. She came along after Martina Navratilova, after Billie Jean King. She was obviously better than her sister Venus, and it's hard to have a rivalry against your own sister, but it's a compelling story now. At the end of her career, this is like a thank you for all she's been through. And she's playing doubles this tournament as well. Doubles with her sister Venus. So if Serena should get bumped from the singles, they have a chance of winning the doubles title. So that would be a wonderful story. The two sisters maybe win that tournament and maybe retire forever. But who knows, guys, whether retirements stick for sure. Imagine if Serena wins this tournament. Do you think there's a chance she might think, wow, I can still do this? If I train even harder, I have some other big victories ahead. I'm loving tennis again. I don't want to quit. I want to continue a little while longer.
It's possible. I look at, this upset was a big upset, of course, and she's going to, because of that upset, she winds up actually having a fairly easy ride to the quarterfinals, where she can, because again, just the way that the seeding is, they don't re-bracket. So by upsetting the number 2, she's going to actually, she goes up against a 29-year-old Australian who is unranked. So she's going to be able to do that a little bit. It was a surprise. There was a couple of upsets in the women's side. So I believe also the number 1 got ousted by a young girl, a Ukrainian girl, I think. So there's an ability here for her to, if she plays the way she played yesterday, to possibly go far and maybe even win this tournament.
Guys, this is always going to be remembered as the Serena Williams tournament. Just like in 1991 when Jimmy Connors, close to 40, he made his run out of nowhere. He was thought to be washed up. Even though Jimmy Connors lost in the semifinals, Stefan Edberg ultimately won the tournament, beating Jim Courier. But only hardcore tennis fans remember Stefan Edberg as winning the tournament. Jimmy Connors was on the cover of Sports Illustrated at the conclusion of the tournament. They made the documentary on his run during that tournament on 30 by 30. So even though Edberg, was the official winner, Jimmy Connors was the people's winner, the people's choice, okay? And that's what this tournament's going to be remembered. Serena Williams never been given, guys, the recognition that she maybe should have been as an iconic athlete. I wonder what the reason is. She had a hard time, her and Venus, because they were black tennis players in an all-white sport, infiltrating it during that era. So that had to be a little difficult for them. But I also think the problem was the same as the Klitschko's in boxing. It took years and years and years for even the average fan to know the difference between Vladimir Klitschko and Vitaly Klitschko. Some are still confused. They call them the Klitschkos, both of them. Yes. Just like Serena and Venus, they call them the Williams sisters.
That's okay. Like the Charlos, right, Jack? They both look so much.
Very good one. Excellent point Mac just mentioned. They're 2 champions in boxing, junior middleweight and middleweight. They're the Charlo brothers, the twins. They're called Jamel and Jamal Charlo. People can't tell them apart. Even guys in the media sometimes stumble for a moment and have to clarify themselves. We may have gotten that with the Williams sisters to a degree, because Venus was a heck of a player. She's won a few majors, but she's overshadowed by Serena, who you could argue greatest athletes of all time. You could conceivably make a case that Serena Williams is a top 5 even, top 10, comfortably put it there because of her dominance within her sport.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The domination that she's had within the sport for as long as she has. She was the best tennis player for a real long time, bar none. That I think she had one streak where she was just undefeated for so long, right? It wasn't like she owns one of those streaks that's the longest of all time, undefeated streak. So it's, I agree with you that she's absolutely she deserves to get more accolades than maybe she has gotten up to this point.
Well, she's
And
getting them now. She's getting them now. Sometimes it takes an athlete a while. Like Max just gave a good example to Charlos in boxing. Marvin Hagler didn't get the accolades till the very end of his career when he fought Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard. And then Hagler became an icon in retirement. Okay. So sometimes an athlete is with us their whole career and they kind of slip under the radar, until the very end. And then we really, truly appreciate them.
Well, guys, how about Arthur Ashe, right? First black male player who won a championship. He was, in fact, they named the stadium after him, if I'm not mistaken. So
right, it is still Arthur Ashe Stadium.
Arthur Ashe was obviously an outstanding player, but he wasn't in Serena Williams' class as far as if you want to prorate a man or woman's player. Arthur Ashe was a great pioneer. Great pioneer, very dignified gentleman, great representative of the sport, well-spoken, and a heck of a good player. But you wouldn't put Arthur Ashe anywhere near a Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, Djokovic. He was nowhere near them. Let's be honest about it. He was just a very good player, who, won Wimbledon, the Open and all, a heck of a player, but not an all-time great player. Serena Williams amongst the women is the greatest of all time. You can make a little argument, Martina, Navratilova, Margaret Court, but you probably put Martina, I think, a shade behind Serena. A little, very close, very close.
And like I said, when I think of women tennis players that have transcended the sport, so to speak, obviously first would be Billie Jean King, obviously because she's done that. Martina Navratilova. However, I was always a fan of Chris Everett Lloyd. I always wanted her to beat Martina. And then you had Steffi Graf, who was also really good right after Martina. And then there's Serena. So, I mean, realistically, there has been a queen of tennis for long periods of time. And, I mean, let's think about this.
Don't mention Steffi Graf. I have a bug up my back about Steffi Graf because Monica Seles used to beat her. It was better between the two. It beat her head-to-head, proved herself to be a superior player when Graf was in the prime, and one of Graf's crazy fans stabbed Monica Seles. It was never the same. So Monica Seles, I rate ahead of Steffi Graf. I want to hear about Steffi. Steffi Graf never, obviously she couldn't have been pleased with what happened. And I'm sure she spoke out against it, but to the point, the Graf supporters, I'm not rating on Monica Seles' level. I'm sorry.
So, but Sharapova and Martina Hingis, both of them, not in the class of those names that we spoke about. Like I said, if you wanted to, like I said, Billie Jean King, Martina Navratilova. Like I said, I would put Steffi in there. Her getting stabbed was not part of Steffi Graf, so you can't really blame that on her just because there was a ridiculous fan.
No, I'm not blaming it on her. Obviously, she wouldn't want something like that to have happened, okay? In any way, shape, or form. I'm talking about strictly from a tennis perspective that Monica Seles' best was better than Steffi Graf's best head-on.
I could go with that. I could 100% understand that.
Saying. I'm not saying. I'm sure Steffi Graf was disturbed by what happened to Monica Seles. So I'm not, don't misunderstand me in any way, shape, or form. But I'm talking more about the followers of Steffi Graf, who might, put her ahead of Monica Seles. I just want to point out in their respective primes, Monica Seles was a little better. The primes didn't last that long where they overlap together though.
Right. No, and I understand that, and ultimately it's. But Serena, I'm telling you, at 17 years old, she's 40 now. You know what I mean? And to upset the number 2. So, and in this tournament, the number 1, 2, and 3 have all been upset. So that there are the top 3 seeds in the women's bracket are already out. So there is more of a beeline here. It's possible that Serena could go on a little bit of a run, and it's good. Like for the Swan song, I like those type. Like I said, the last Swan song I remember was Agassi. I know that you guys don't remember that as much. I was a big fan of Jimmy Connors too, so I remember that Swan song. Those are the times when I enjoy. I think even what was it? Peter Sampras had a run similar to this. I don't know that he made it even to the quarters, but he had a resurgence of sorts where he was becoming relevant again.
Sampras won the Open. He won the U.S. Open and retired. Or
Yeah.
he retired on top. Guys, you know what? I mean, he played exhibitions a little and some other stuff, but his last serious tennis, he retired on top. You know what it makes me think, Pags? What you're mentioning about Serena Williams knocking off number 2, number 1 went out, number 3, and the whole thing. What Max said about the NFL quarterbacks the year before last in the draft, he didn't think any of them were that good. And we were all making a big deal. Well, they're drafted here, there, so they must be good. Not to rain on Serena's parade in this tournament at all, because we're talking glowingly about her. We mean every word we've said. But maybe some of these top players just aren't that good. Someone has to be number 1. Someone has to be number 2. It might not be the greatest era right now of women's tennis, perhaps, and that might show in a sense that whatever's left of Serena Williams, 50% of Serena Williams might conceivably be good enough to win this tournament over 100% of the top players today, which, you know, is in large part to Serena Williams' greatness, but also points out she's not exactly going against a peak Martina Navratilova, peak Billie Jean King, a peak, Monica Seles, a peak Steffi Graf.
Right. Even a peak Venus. Venus was also really good during that time. Just Serena, she was always overshadowed by Serena. How many times did they meet in the finals? So there was a number of times where the two of them went head to head in finals. So
just saying, guys, the Klitschko brothers would never fight one another. They promised their mother they wouldn't. Tennis is somehow different. I mean, if you guys were boxers, could you fight against your brother?
Me personally, I figure that would be the sparring partner. My brother would be the sparring partner.
And be psyched to actually go all out, hit them all out, knock them out, do whatever it takes to win. Max says he could do it. Pags, I sense reluctance on your part.
Yeah, I don't know. It puts you in a hard spot there. So I mean, I'm being very competitive. Every time I ever played my brother in anything, I was very competitive. So I would expect that my competition, enzyme in my head would take over there and how beat me. That being said, most times, I mean, that in the sports that we would play, he was better and he would beat me. So, but that didn't stop the competition. But again, we weren't playing on a championship level. So this wasn't like we were going up against, and the winner is going to win a Grand Slam title. So that's a whole different scenario. And I'm gonna want the title the same way that he would want the title. So that's how I feel about it.
I was more sad at the end. I boxed not, my cousins were the ones that I really went up against when we did boxing. But I was more sad at the end, guys. I was really pumped at the beginning, but at the end, you kind of feel bad at what happened.
Well, I'm going to tell you one of the great tragedies that no one talks about in boxing. And this is really just about the ultimate tragedy. The Quarry Brothers, former heavyweight contender Jerry Quarry, and his brother Mike Quarry, a former light heavyweight contender who fought for the world light heavyweight title and got knocked out by the great Bob Forster, who didn't force the knockout. When they sparred, the Quarry Brothers, they sparred without headgear. and they would go at it. And at that time, we didn't realize about head trauma. It was the same way in football. If someone had a headache, the coaches would call him a wimp if he wanted to go out, and they'd send him back in that crazy era. The Quarry Brothers would be pounding on one another during sparring, and especially Jerry was a harder punching, bigger than his brother Mike. But both guys, passed in their 50s through head trauma because the sparring sessions were the equivalent sometimes of real fights, the way they bang one another, but we didn't have the research then. It was like coaches not allowing players to have water because that was supposedly a sign of weakness at the time. Now it would be criminal to withhold water from a player.
Right.
Okay. But at that time it was different. But Serena Williams, listen, I hope we could talk about her more on upcoming shows in the near future, because that would mean she's keeping this going and she's completely, in the news, and it's a fun ride. And we're even attaching ourselves to this now. And go Serena.
Sure. There you go. Exactly. Hopefully within the next 2 weeks, maybe in 2 weeks, we're still talking about her as she would go to possibly leave the sport on top with another Grand Slam title win.
Well, I don't know about.
She's given us thrills so far. Winning these 2 matches, she's given us thrills, and she still has the doubles with Venus. So
correct. That's correct. She plays doubles today with Venus, with her sister. So, and they've got 14 Grand Slam titles together.
Guys, so let me just ask you this. I was never a tennis player. I've always been a tennis fan, but I never played competitive tennis. Doesn't that, if you're playing singles, how can you play doubles? Shouldn't you be resting, and that extra exertion in doubles, wouldn't that hurt your singles game a little?
I don't know.
I think that they're so conditioned. When you're playing tennis, you're playing for hours and hours and hours and hours, and they are so conditioned in comparison to other sports that my expectation is it probably does not. It probably is more like loosening up for your match. That it's like throwing on the off day. If you're
no, but I know what you're saying, but to me it's like you have a night game in the major leagues, and now you're playing a softball game in Central Park in the afternoon before I go to the stadium. It might be easy stuff in comparison, but I think you kind of need all the rest you can get. But what do I know? That's why I never made it to that level. So
now you're sounding like an Italian, Jack, when you put in the what the hell do I know? So.
But what do I know? I don't know what it takes on that level, especially with tennis. I mean, they know their own bodies, but I'm just kind of curious, especially with Serena going on this run. Let's say she keeps winning the singles matches. Now she's got to play doubles with Venus. You kind of wonder in the back of her mind, I wish I didn't have to do this, but I'm committed to it. I have no idea what she's thinking, but listen, you can't get enough of Serena right now.
Well, pretty soon you're going to wind up not seeing her anymore because, like I said, she's old. She's 40 years old. It's eventually, the game is going to have to move on without her. So, like I said, it's nice to see these runs, and I feel that as adults, that we all get behind somebody who's a little older than the rest of the field and does well. Because that's what kind of drives some of the love right now for Tom Brady. Now, I know Tom Brady also gets a lot of hate too, but as he's 45 years old playing a game that the average age of the player in the NFL is like 25, 26, he's almost 20 years older than that. It generates some excitement as an older guy. Hey, listen, that even though he's older than everybody else, he's still got it, and he's still he's voted by his peers as the best player in the NFL and the top 100. So literally, I mean, that's got to make old people feel good all over the place that I'm even one of them. You know what I mean? So it's like I fall into that category now at 50 years old.
Wow.
So
You're older than me,
Yeah, I
Pat.
know.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you were older than me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm getting up there. I'll be celebrating my 50th this year here in a couple of months.
Yeah.
So I know I look 30, but that's beside the point. That's just because I
say
age like a fine wine.
Yeah, let me tell you, I don't. I mean, I work out. I'm in great shape. I had one great workout. I like to tell this story. Man, I was a couple hours in the gym, 6 miles on the treadmill, running, weightlifting, this, that, shadow boxing. I felt great. I treated myself to Wendy's. I go into Wendy's, order my thing, and they seem to give me back a little more money than what the cost was. And I'm always honest that way. If you give me back extra money, I let you know. You gave me back a little too much. And they said, yeah, but sir, that's what the seniors discount is. I didn't even ask for the darn discount.
Yeah, bad.
I was frustrated from feeling I was 24 years old again. They made me feel like an old guy.
Yeah, that's like blowing up a balloon and then just letting it go.
Oh,
And
man,
went,
I was feeling so great. Oh, man. Oh.
Oh, that's funny.
So let's transition real quickly to baseball. I before we go talk about what we were talking about, Ohtani has a day yesterday where he not only wins his 10th game, but also hits his 30th home run, and he is the first player in Major League Baseball history to do such.
Yeah, we talked about the comparison to Babe Ruth, right? And there really is not one. I mean, Babe had an unbelievable ERA during the playoffs. I think it was 0.81, something like that. And he was dynamic. But Ohtani, I mean, there's no comparison.
Wait 1 second. I can play devil's advocate and I can make an argument. And this argument's going to make a lot of sense, fellas, that Ohtani is more valuable to his team. Well, no, the Angels are losing, so how valuable could he be? But is a better player all around for his team than Babe Ruth was in any 1 year for his team. And listen what I'm basing it on. Babe was a one-position player. Ohtani's an ace pitcher / impact everyday player. You're only based on that, playing devil's advocate. So I can say Ohtani more than anyone in baseball history. Let me put it another way. Babe's incomparable, Babe is. So understand where I'm coming from. Ohtani does everything. If Ohtani wasn't a position player and he was only a pitcher, he would be considered definitely a top number 2 on any team, maybe an ace. And as a position player, he would be considered top of the line. That's why I think Ohtani maybe should be the first $50 million a year player, $25 million per position, pitcher / everyday player.
Yeah, so I know that you keep bringing that up, that he got, well, because he's the pitcher and he's a designated hitter, because he doesn't play the field. He only plays pitcher and designated hitters. So
he doesn't play right field, bags or first.
He does not. He hasn't this season. He may have played another position before, but he has not played any position this season. He's only been designated hitter and pitcher.
They've babied him a little bit. In this era, I'm going to tell you guys, they're scared of getting a player hurt. I know Mac absolutely hates it with a passion, and I support Mac on this, the way they baby these guys. Do you know the Miracle Mets in 1969? Gil Hodges would use Tom Seaver as a pinch runner, because he knew Tom Seaver was a very smart player, would run the bases smartly, had, maybe slightly better than average speed. But can you imagine in this era, you put in Jacob deGrom to pinch run and he pulls a hammy, the manager would get fired. Gil Hodges wasn't going to get fired. Or if you put Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer into just pinch run, the manager wouldn't hear the end of it with the media. Everyone is playing it safe. I hate it. Listen, I wasn't upset with Mariano Rivera I wasn't upset over the reason when he got injured shagging fly balls in the outfield. Some people say, well, why was he shagging fly balls? Let the guy live and enjoy himself out there. I mean, I'd be mad if during practice Mariano Rivera was diving for balls and stretched out. That would be going a little too far, but you can't baby these guys too much.
Yeah, and Martin Jack, right? He put in Rod Guidry to pitch run for the Yankees.
Yeah, right. Good point. Exactly. Yeah. Good point. What they do. Speaking of baseball, what's the news out there, Pags? There's a headline with one of your favorites, I think.
Yes. One guy who is very well known in Philadelphia. When an umpire is well known anywhere, there's a problem, and that's one of the things. Usually, you hear about what's his name, Joe, whatever his name is. That he's always the guy who's that he always feels that everybody's there to see him, and the baseball game just happens around him. But this here, Angel Hernandez has put in a suit against Major League Baseball because he feels that it is discrimination that he has been passed over for crew chief and for playoffs and World Series play. And he's put in a lawsuit because he's been an umpire since 1993. And the fact that he's never had a crew chief. Well, he had a crew chief job for a while as an interim during COVID, but that was taken away from him, and that he feels that it's part of discrimination. And
he's right. He's actually right, guys. Major League Baseball discriminates against bad umpires. He's absolutely correct. There's discrimination there.
I 100% agree. And not only do I agree, but Major League Baseball also agrees by entering a 58-page report on this, on how everything that he has done wrong throughout his entire career, and how much of a big deal some of these things happen. They cite here that in 2014 that he misapplied a substitution rule that caused a 14-minute delay into a game. As they're trying to shorten the games, there's this 14-minute delay in the middle of a game, and actually made the game go on protest. He had to replay at that moment, from that moment on, so that Major League Baseball never wants to delete a game that's over. They never want to say, they never have to go back and say, all right, we got to replay this game again. This was one of those times where he was the cause of it. Also, they mentioned here that he was in 2018, he was given a temporary crew chief job, and they brought him into the ALCS with the possibility of being the crew chief in the World Series. And what wound up happening is that it was the first time ever that an umpire had 3 calls overturned by instant replay. That some umpires, if it's close or whatever, but he had 3 calls overturned. And of course, there was what happened this year, where Angel Hernandez was calling balls and strikes behind the plate for a Phillies game, and Kyle Schwarber got called out on strikes in his last at bat in the 9th. And he talked about how they're over here, you're over here, they're over here. None of them are strikes, and he winds up getting thrown out of the game. And Joe Torre pulls no punches, saying that this guy has been horrible as an umpire in general.
Guys, why is he allowed to be a major league umpire? Is Major League Baseball so scared they're going to get sued? They're going to be accused of being racist in any way by letting him go? Why does he still have an umpire's job with all this baggage? I heard he asked for autographed baseballs from pitch after game, and that's supposed to be a no-no. The only time I can understand there's an autograph from a player signing something, if it's auctioned off in charity in some way, but it has to be done through official channels, not loosely, where Major League Baseball arranges, a pitcher who pitched the perfect game to sign the ball, and it's going to go to, charities in that event. He reportedly, I hope it's not true, it was reported by ESPN, he had like 11 baseballs.
That is exact. Homer Bailey in 2012. In 2012, he asked Homer Bailey to autograph 11 baseballs following a game in which Bailey threw a no-hitter.
What does he need with 11 baseballs signed?
He's selling them. That's what he's doing.
I can maybe understand this, maybe as an explanation. I was the umpire behind the plate of a no-hitter, so I wanted it for my own memento of umpiring a no-hit game. But once you do that, now you're umpiring a future game of that pitcher who was so nice to you. And that's an impropriety, it's going to give the feeling, maybe you're giving the pitcher the benefit of the doubt because you kind of like him. Umpires do that. If you don't like a player, you're going to go against them. Like the case Robbie Alomar spitting in John Hirschbeck, the umpire's face. Okay, later they became good friends, ironically, and that's heartwarming. That's nice. But when Robbie Alomar was in the 1997 playoffs, the Orioles against Cleveland, they ended the game on the third called strike on Robbie Alomar. That was clearly a ball, not even close. It was if the umpire, said, screw you, Robbie. That's how they got back at Robbie Alomar, because the league didn't really suspend them long enough in their view.
Yeah.
So, but there is his career is littered with issues and problems going all the way back, like I said, to asking for the baseballs to be signed in 2012. In 2013, he refused to overturn a call that was actually a home run. He said it didn't cross over the fence line, so he only gave them a double. Because of that, it would have been a game-tying home run. Instead, he only gets a double, and they wind up losing that game. MLB states that he refuses to admit that that call was improper, and instead he blames it on the camera equipment. Angel Hernandez has always got excuses. Is the problem? That's the problem. He's not very good. That the game that he had in Philadelphia, there was like 67% correct calls at the plate, behind the plate. That when you're 60, that means 33% of your calls are just on balls and strike are wrong. That's a problem. That is a problem.
Big
no
one.
Wonder.
Major.
And that not only that, they're saying that he failed to reverse that call, and that he still holds that. He can't get over it. Whatever. That he's got a quick hook. So he's always getting managers out, and what that does, that escalates the issue on the field rather than de-escalating and giving warnings. So he is exactly what they do not want in an umpire. And the reason why he's still got a job, you asked that question a few seconds ago, is because they also have a union. So without being able to, he's not doing something that is going against baseball in total. And the fact that he's suing them is not really even a big deal either. Yeah, they can't fire him because of that, just because he feels that he's being.
Why was he given a chance to umpire the American League Championship Series if he'd been so bad? That indicates to me that maybe baseball is a little nervous being accused of, racism bias. So they try to kind of, level the field a little and take an umpire who's not nearly as worthy as an umpire who doesn't have the controversy, I should say, of other umpires, yet they'll elevate him ahead of those other umpires.
So it says here, because he did umpire in a World Series in 2005. So it's not that he is done whatever, but it says here in its reply brief Wednesday, Major League Baseball wrote that Joe Torre, then chief baseball officer, selected Hernandez for the division series the intention of providing him an opportunity to umpire in the World Series that year. Hernandez did not capitalize on that opportunity and did not rise to the occasion. That was the first time since the advent of expanded instant replay in 2014 that an umpire had 3 calls overturned in a postseason game. Based on his performance during that division series playoff game, Torre was not confident in Hernandez's ability to perform effectively on a more intense stage, and for this reason did not select him for the World Series that season. That's pretty profound right there. 3 calls wrong.
Yeah, and Angel Hernandez, let's be honest, before this didn't have much of a reputation. I mean, there's certain umpires, like if you were going to take a poll of, I can't say a poll of players, I don't know what they'd say for sure, but the one name that stood out amongst the umpires was Angel Hernandez, it would seem, in Major League Baseball, because he has had controversy surrounding him. And this just adds to it.
Correct. That is correct. So I feel that.
Let me tell you, but in defense of Angel Hernandez, when he did those Philly games in the past, Keith Hernandez thought he was doing a good job, Pags. Yeah.
Well, I know that they're related, right? That's the problem here. So he's just sticking up for his cousin. Yeah. Whatever. I don't care what Keith Hernandez. And see, the moment you mentioned his name, we had 8 people watching. Now we're down to 2. Every time, Jack, you just want to keep bringing it up, and you lose us viewership every time you bring him up. Nobody cares about Keith Hernandez so much so that they leave our show. So that's all I got to say about that. Keep bringing it up, and we keep losing people. So,
well, I mean, you got to bring it up. He's the greatest first baseman of all time. What is it? 13 Golden Gloves.
What? Get 9. Stop giving him more accolades. Again, now we just lost everybody. All our viewership is gone. We might as well end the show now because nobody's watching anymore. You guys keep thinking with this, Hernandez. It looks like everybody who's named Hernandez is only half good at their job. So you keep giving him more Golden Gloves than he's had. He only had 9. Oh, he had 13. Get out of here. He was a good player during a bad time when there wasn't any other first baseman around.
Good. So he was great. He's legendary. He's up there with Lou Gehrig. I mean, what are you talking about? Good.
Yeah. In your own mind, that's just a Trump up Mets fan trying to talk about that, where he was no good for a long time. They had 1 year that if Buckner didn't have that ball go through his legs, they'd have lost that series, and it wouldn't have mattered much. He would have been no good. There's a reason why they don't even entertain the fact that he should be in the Hall of Fame, because he's not a Hall of Fame worthy. So you could say Lou Gehrig all you want. Truth of the matter is that Keith Hernandez is not a Hall of Famer and was a cheater because he was pumping himself up with steroids too. So that's all it is. Maybe it was the steroids that gave him all of those gold
steroids. He was taking some other substance. It wasn't steroids.
PEDs, HGH, it doesn't matter. He was cheating. He was cheating just like everybody else is, and everybody else ain't getting in the Hall of Fame. There was so many people better than he was. He doesn't deserve to be there at all. And then he lied about it too. He lied. Oh, I didn't know what this guy was shooting up my butt. Get out of here. Get out of here. He's a liar and he's a fraud.
Pags, when you go to the doctor's office, they give you a shot. You don't sometimes know exactly what's in it. You feel it's something that's going to benefit you.
Doctors give shots anymore?
Pags,
I even give shots. I don't know. I haven't been. It's been a long time since I've got a shot from a doctor.
Pags, I think you're trying to avoid talking football because this hasn't been a pleasant last day or two for the Eagles, because you could sense the wheels are falling off your team.
Oh yeah.
Really? Okay. Let's talk about that. Go ahead. Plead your case. Let's plead your case with that one.
At least Keith Hernandez can catch the ball. Right. Jalen Rigor had a hard time catching the ball. He was a #1 pick for the Eagles a while back, wasn't he? Now they just get rid of him to the Vikings. They traded him to the Vikings, but a bigger pain in the butt, Jason Peters, an Eagle legend, an offensive tackle. He's visiting the Cowboys. Jerry Jones is talking him. How are you going to like watching Jason Peters blocking for the Cowboys?
Pax.
You're going to be rooting for him, Pax.
No, I will not be rooting for Jason Peters. And like I said, Jason Peters should have retired 3 years ago. So if he goes on the Cowboys, I relish that situation because Dak Prescott's going to be going down a lot. He's just doesn't have it anymore. He was the best offensive tackle for a long time. And unfortunately, the game has passed him by 3 years ago. 3 years ago, he should have retired. Now, the longer he stays in, he should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. I feel that the last few years is starting to detract from that now. So, and that's an unfortunate situation because I like Jason Peters. I feel that he would be a fantastic line coach, and I don't know why he's not going that route. But truth of the matter is that he, can't tell somebody when they're done playing. I mean, look at Tom Brady. He can't seem to stop either. So at 40 years old, you had the guy last year who was on the Rams. He was 40 years old. First time, offensive tackle of that age, started in a Super Bowl. And he wound up getting a ring. And then, of course, he retired because he knew that the game was passing him by, that he was an okay and a serviceable tackle, but not really playing up to the par that he has been used to playing. Jason Peters has not been Jason Peters since 2017 when he got hurt. And that's a shame.
I love the game. You want to know something? We want to see a guy retire who was once great, and then he slips and he's maybe average and he's just hanging on for roster spot. Is really a sad thing. Some guys, it's a way of life. They want to be a part of a team, and they never want to cave in. They always want to think that they can still do it. They just need to be given the opportunity. If Jason Peters wants to play football, his family's okay with it. He knows the risks. You never want to see someone play football too long because of the nature of the sport. You never want to see them box too long. Those are major considerations, the long-term effects. But if we get by that element and it's just performance, let's say Jason Peters can be a good backup with the Cowboys, good enough for roster spot. And you're looking at him, well, he was once an Eagle legend. He's embarrassing himself now. Is he really embarrassing himself?
No. Only play creates that around him. So, I mean, if he goes there and he's a backup, which is probably what's going to wind up happening, because I can't see that he's going to start. He did start 13 games, I think, last year for Chicago, and gave up 28 hurries. He was obviously not the same Jason Peters of old. That he's still serviceable. And I can imagine that if he's on a rotation where he's playing about 15 snaps a game, 18 snaps a game, that he's going to be able to be good in that specific role. But that being said, I don't think that he's got it anymore, unfortunately. And the fact that it's for the Cowboys, it could be for any team. It's the fact that the Cowboys just makes it easier for me because I think that he's going to just give up sacks. And especially since the Eagles, he's got to play the Eagles twice a year. And the offensive linemen of the Eagles know how he is. So it's going to be.
The big football talk the last day was Baker Mayfield was headline news. And Baker Mayfield was basically accused of saying something he never said. It created a buzz.
I tell you what. Let's get that after the break. I want to hear real quick because that's going to take up a few minutes of time when we're going to talk about Baker Mayfield in general. I'd like to hear about how the wheels are coming off the Eagles. I want to hear your thought process on how the wheels are falling off of the Eagles because we got rid of a guy who was going to be, the fifth wide receiver on our team, and that everything else is just saying that, hey, the Eagles are falling apart. Especially after we got our safety from the Saints and stuff. But yeah, tell me how the Eagles are going to fall apart.
Don't worry, Pax. We'll bring you back to reality.
Well, after the break and now.
No, right now, because then we'll talk. We'll talk about Baker Mayfield after the break.
Overconfidence is setting in with the Eagles now. It's a very dangerous thing. They have no right to be overconfident, because they exceeded expectations last year. In everyone's view but yours, Pax, I give you your due. You nailed it last season with the Eagles. But the bottom line is there was still a 9-8 team. The 9-8 team, they made the playoffs. They haven't shown that they're not an elite NFL team at least.
And Jack, don't forget why, right? Because they put the third string quarterback in against the Giants. We all know what happened there. We all call them out on it.
So the year before last, the last
all right,
game.
okay, the year before last then. But we still remember.
Crying. I've been out of tissues for now 6 months. The Giants are still crying about it. Wah, 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 wah.
You know, that quarterback, oh man, what's his last? Oh, I'm having a little brain freeze.
Sudfeld?
What?
Sudfeld?
Right. If I'm not mistaken,
it was Nate Sudfeld who came in and didn't play very well.
Right. I'm not sure. Was he just cut?
He was just cut. He was just cut.
Right. The Bears?
Might have been.
He went to the 49ers after that.
No, that's who it was. He was cut from the 49ers roster.
Yeah, listen,
that was part of where they got Garoppolo.
But and that carried over with the Giants to last year. Had they been division champs, it would have added a little confidence there, a little swagger. But with the Eagles, I mean, listen, they have on paper really a dynamic receiving corps on the corner and a tight end, and but you get the feeling that that's a division that's not too challenging for the Eagles. Everyone's already saying it's going to be neck and neck, the Eagles and the Cowboys. Everyone's already dismissing the Giants and the Washington Commanders. The Philadelphia fan base has to remember this, that Washington Commanders have something, a secret weapon who could come up big, and it's called Carson Wentz. If Carson Wentz could lead the Commanders to the division title, beat the Eagles twice, make a Super Bowl run, I think it could set the Eagle franchise back 4 or 5 years.
I think that you probably had a couple of sparring matches without the headgear on there, Jack. That's what I'm beginning to understand now.
Fan base in Philadelphia is going to become fractured if Carson Wentz comes back, wins the Comeback Player of the Year award, and is one of the best QBs in football next year. Right. I think because the Eagle fan base wasn't certain to move on from him.
Yes.
Because as much as they like Jalen Hurts, the Eagle fan base, and I don't care what you say, Pax, is still not 100% sold on Jalen Hurts being the quarterback of the future. They think he might be it. There's the difference. They think there's a reasonable chance he could be it. But the feeling isn't even the same as in Jacksonville, who had the worst record. The Jaguars know Trevor Lawrence is their quarterback of the future. The Eagles, with a much better team, obviously, than Jacksonville, just aren't certain about Jalen Hurts. Everyone loves Jalen Hurts because he's a good person, smart kid, intelligent. Does he have the arm strength? Does he have all those qualities? But Carson Wentz got the arm strength. Say that about him.
He just doesn't have any of those other qualities. And I you know what? And I can't even argue with you because I'm in the same boat. I don't know that Jalen Hurts is the guy. And I've said that up to this point. I still needed to see another 10 games. He had to add another 10 games to his body of work. If after that 10 games, if they're 4-6 at the end of 10 games, then we're going to see a new quarterback next year. If they are 8-2 at the end of this.
You know who Mac wants to see as the Eagle quarterback right now? Minshew would be
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Right now.
That's what I was just going to say. I mean, listen, how can you beat Minshew as the Eagles starting quarterback? It's a marriage made in heaven. I mean, they appreciate him a lot more than you do, Pags. And, Mr. Mustache is ready to rock again in Philly.
You know what?
I tell you, normally I would have something to come back with, but when I'm facing just wave after wave of just ridiculousness, I'm just going to let it wash over me.
You don't understand. Minshew is an athlete. Okay, would bring to the Eagles what Lenny Dykstra brought to the Phillies.
Good comparison.
That attitude, kind of, that attitude he would bring to the team. Now, I like Jalen Hurts a lot. I personally think he should be starting over Minshew. That's not from my end. I differ from Mac. But I also recognize Minshew comes with a kind of like a swagger.
Yeah.
Okay? He's like one of, just the attitude to the whole city would catch on.
Yeah.
Can I ask, when was the last time either one of the teams that you enjoy, that you guys are fans of, had winning records?
Well,
Can you remember back then? I know it was a long time ago, but can you remember back when the last time? The Jets. I mean, the Jets haven't had a winning record in a long time.
The Jets but listen, the Jets on the right track. I mean,
and why are the Jets on the right track? Because they got Joe Douglas from the Eagles, who I feel that, like I said, I think Joe Douglas is an amazing GM, and I felt that it was going to take a couple years. He had to get rid of Gase, and now they are on the right track. That's what needed to happen there, and I think Joe Douglas is an amazing GM.
Different from the Eagles now. The Eagles get rid of Jalen Rigor. They don't realize you need depth at wide receiver. Case in point, Denzel Mims, a Jet wide receiver, him and his agent are begging for a trade. And the Jets don't trade him. They made him the 6th wide receiver. He made the 53-man roster. They didn't trade him because the Jets, they drafted Garrett Wilson, number 1, great receiver from Ohio State the year before, Elijah Moore. But the point is, they realize they need the depth. The Eagles have a certain arrogance as if no one is going to get injured. It might turn out that they might need Jalen Rigor late in the year. But they're banking it on, no one's going to get hurt. Everything is going to be status quo.
I tell you, Jack, you need to do more research before you start talking. That's kind of what happens. First off, the guys that were on the practice squad, Devin Allen, who has speed that rivals Tyreek Hill, was on the practice squad because Jalen Reagor was the 5th wide receiver. We carrying 3 tight ends, and we have the top 4 wide receivers go A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, and Pascal. So those are the top 4 receivers. And then you got Dallas Goedert in the number 5 spot, really, as a tight end. And now you got Devin Allen, who is a burner, who's going to be their number 5 guy. And then they also got a 6th guy.
Right, Devin Allen? Is that the plan?
I'm sorry?
Isn't the plan for Devin Allen to return kicks? Maybe I'm mistaken here.
Maybe now it is, because obviously Jalen Reagor originally made the roster.
Guys,
so I think
what's funny? Hurdling is allowed in football. I always felt it should be outlawed. Devin Allen, a great hurdler. Could you imagine him returning kicks in the open field? But I could guarantee you, whoever sees Devin Allen coming his way is going to be standing a little straighter up. It's going to be you won't want to give that man an opportunity to hurdle, because that's what he did. That's
right. Well, and not only that, but he's got such speed. So if you're standing up, you better be really on guard, because ultimately he's going to be able to juke you. And Devin Hester made a living off of being fast on kickoffs. Yeah, so that's ultimately. Now, can I compare him to Devin Hester? I cannot. Devin Hester did it. He has not done anything at this point. But he's now going to have his opportunity.
I got to warn you, Sunday, whenever you have to be ready with your NFL predictions this Sunday. Okay? We got to go out on the limb. I give Mac credit. He at least goes out on the limb. We know where he stands. You can't hem and haw the way Jeff Code and Byron Williams hem and haw on their prediction. Even though Byron,
I don't hem and haw about nothing.
We did force him to go out on the limb, and he picked the Arizona Cardinals to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
As a Keith Engel will probably go out on the limb himself, and Robert Butler, I would think so too. But Jim doesn't want to. he knows these guys, Jim Jeffcoat and Byron Williams. They know the guys around the league, and they don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. So I don't know if they're going to come up with a prediction, but Jim will pick the Cowboys to go to the Super Bowl.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about that because he'll surprise you. I mean, I know he'll pick the Giants to go to the Super Bowl, but I don't know if Jim is that predictable, Jack.
Giants?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that either. I don't think that he thinks the Giants are going to be any good either. I know that he thinks that the Cowboys are going to be good, but I don't think that he thinks they're going to go to the Super Bowl. But hey, on that note, as we're talking about the Cowboys in the Super Bowl, which I know is not going to happen, I'll take whatever money anybody wants to bet on that. Let's go to a commercial break, and we'll be back right after these commercial messages.
Stick with us.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, guys, any...
Mr. Green?
Yeah.
You need any help? I just want you to know, I think you're the best ever.
Yeah, sure.
Want my Coke? It's okay, you can have it.
No.
Really, you can have it.
Okay.
A Coke and a smile makes me feel good, makes me feel nice.
Be around.
That's the way it should be. I like to say,
Hey, kid.
the whole world is smiling with me. Coca-Cola as life. Have a Coke and
Thanks, Mean Joe.
smile.
You know, one of the best things about being an ex-big leaguer is getting freebies to the game. Call the front office, bingo. And once these fans recognize me, I probably won't even have to pay for my light beer from Miller. Down it, I love them. These fans know I drink light because it's less filling and it tastes great. Good seats, huh?
You're in the wrong seat, buddy. Come on.
Oh, I must be in the front row.
Come on.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer and less.
Good seats, hey, buddy. He missed the tag. He missed the tag.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
And we're back.
Hey, Pags, great work on that commercial, by the way. It was so professional.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'd love to say that I did it all myself, but that's not the case.
Okay.
But anyways, obviously, as you saw, all the games, those are the away games that we're having. I don't see many losses in there. So you guys could talk all you want about how the Eagles' wheels are falling off. I don't see it whatsoever.
You're going to talk about the Eagles for the rest of the show. We've got some other news. I'm just saying there's got to be some concern in Eagle Land the last couple of days. I mean, you see, it's like a new house that got painted. You got a great paint job. The house looks wonderful, but there are a couple of little tiny chips. No one else is going to notice, but you notice it, Pat.
Right,
and it
right.
kind of annoys you. You won't point it out to your company that comes to visit. A couple of little chips, but it kind of bothers you the job the painters did. Yeah. It shouldn't be. They should have gotten those tiny little spots. It's annoying. You tell yourself it's nothing, but it kind of bothers you there. And let's see, and Jerry Jones and the Cowboys will be ready to cash in if there's any slippage at all. And they seem to be doing this by going after Jason Peters because they know not only will Jason Peters maybe give them value on the offensive line, but also it's going to tick off the Eagle fan base and maybe the organization.
And I heard, Jack, he's starting against the Eagles when they play.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that. Go ahead. I hope that he starts every game for the Cowboys, and I hope they never fire McCarthy. I wish could always be, because I think that that's just perfect for the Cowboys in general.
Yeah.
So,
okay, listen, we were going to discuss Baker Mayfield here.
That's exactly who I was about to bring up.
The Baker Mayfield situation. Baker Mayfield was I don't want to use the word accused. According to NFL analyst Cynthia Freeland, she claimed that Baker Mayfield said he was going to bleep the Cleveland Browns up. Now, Baker Mayfield and the Carolina Panthers are playing the Cleveland Browns the first game of the season. And as we know, Baker Mayfield came from the Cleveland Browns. It wasn't a happy breakup. It was a very unhappy breakup because Baker Mayfield had been the starting quarterback for 4 years for the Cleveland Browns. He was a number 1 overall selection in the draft, and the Browns get Deshaun Watson while Baker Mayfield is still with Cleveland.
And not saying anything to him about it either, Jack. They didn't tell him.
No, but as soon as they got him, Mac, Baker Mayfield is immediately thanking the Brown fans, more or less saying he wants to be traded, he wants out. And that kind of ticked off the Brown organization. But what did they expect? The Browns signed Deshaun Watson. Did they think Baker Mayfield would say that's fine? Now, Baker Mayfield's been with the Browns for 4 years. He's had a couple of really good years and a couple of not so good years. And last year was one of the not so good years. Baker Mayfield would be dreadful at times last year.
And that was mainly because of an injury too, Jack. It wasn't really his fault.
That's debatable, Mac. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong at all. Whether it was the injury, whether it was poor decision making, frankly, I don't know. But the Browns saw Deshaun Watson as an upgrade from Baker Mayfield. Deshaun Watson on the field would be an upgrade from practically every quarterback in the NFL. There are only a few others he wouldn't be an upgrade for. Right. So I could understand the Browns making that move. All the controversy after, I'm not even going to go there with that with Deshaun Watson. We're talking about strictly what's going on in the field. But they also knew, the Browns, Deshaun Watson might face some type of suspension. It could have been 4 games in the head, 8 games, maybe a whole season. So they weren't going to push a Baker Mayfield trade in the beginning. But why would Baker Mayfield want to be there if he knows the moment Deshaun Watson comes off any suspension, he's the quarterback? It's no longer my team, the quarterback. So Baker Mayfield basically forced his way out, or Cleveland didn't deal him so quick because they wanted another team to pick up the bulk of his salary. But Baker Mayfield wasn't that popular around the league for the teams to want to pay most of his salary. So they waited, and finally Cleveland had to move on from him, and they worked out a deal with Carolina, the Carolina Panthers. So now he plays Cleveland the first game of the year. And of course, no matter what any athlete tells you guys, you're going up against your old team. And unless you've gotten off on the greatest of terms, okay, you want to beat your old team badly. You want to beat them badly. Listen, Russell Wilson with Denver, they're playing Seattle their first game.
Right.
Russell Wilson didn't get off on bad terms against Seattle, but that game's going to be a little more motivation. He's not going to want to go back to the place where he became a future Hall of Famer and lose that game. When Tom Brady last year went to New England, the game had a little extra importance, a lot of extra importance to him. And Baker Mayfield's right. It's a long season. It's 17 games. Cleveland can beat the Panthers 45-0. But if the Panthers wind up having a really good year, going to the playoffs, and Cleveland doesn't, in the end, that game isn't going to mean that much. But right now, it's everything to Baker Mayfield, despite what he says. So according to Cynthia Freeland, the NFL reporter, who used to be a sideline reporter with Buffalo, who Baker Mayfield reportedly knew, she said that Baker Mayfield said that he was going to bleep the Browns up. But later, she walked back to remarks when Baker Mayfield said, I never said that. I never said anything like that. She's claiming he was saying it in a very playful, innocent way. I could tell you something about headlines, guys. I experienced it myself, learning firsthand the impact. In 1997, I went to Las Vegas to cover the Pernell Whitaker-Oscar De La Hoya fight. On my way back to New York, I'm in the airport. Who should walk by me all alone? Evander Holyfield. 6 weeks later, he'd be having his rematch with Mike Tyson, the famous ear bite fight. 6 weeks later. And as a writer, I tell myself, I can't believe this. I can maybe get an exclusive interview with Holyfield all alone. And I do. We sit down and we talk, not a long time, about 10 minutes or whatever, 10, 15 minutes. But I'm sitting and I have him to myself. And we're talking, and I asked him an innocent question about the rematch with Tyson. You think Tyson is going to be more ready for the rematch than he was for the first fight? And Holyfield said very innocently, no emotion, half asleep in a way, saying, well, he knows he has to be ready because what he did the first time wasn't, good enough. Innocent remark. No put down. Headline of the story on the cover, Holyfield said, Tyson had better be ready. It sounded like he threw down the gauntlet. It sounded like, whoa, he's like really telling you better be ready, man, because here I come. It was nothing of the sort. It was just said, innocently in conversation. And so I think Baker Mayfield is getting a raw deal here. And I don't like it. And especially, Mac, you understand things like that. But a guy like Pags just won't let go. He just won't let go. According to Pags, he still feels Baker Mayfield made that remark that he was going to bleep the Browns up.
What are you talking about?
We were talking about it, and you weren't backing off from criticizing Baker Mayfield.
No, I am rooting for Baker Mayfield to beat the F out of Cleveland. I think so. I don't think he actually said it at all, and I think that it literally is trumped up because he hasn't been outspoken since he's gone to the Panthers. He's actually fairly been quiet, And they don't want that out of Baker Mayfield. They want to get the lines from him. So realistically, it was said that she had this was like off camera, off, out of context, where it was just kind of being funny back and forth, where they were kind of just going back and forth and BSing with each other. And that's where this was said. Is it really said that way? I don't know. And truth of the matter is that they trumped it up just because it came from Baker Mayfield. I'm sure he feels exactly what was said, but that doesn't mean that he said it. And realistically, it's not going to matter, because after Carolina crushes Cleveland in week 1, it's going to be no longer a story.
You really think they'll crush Impact?
I do. I think that the Panthers are going to rally around their guy and play like a game much better than they are as a team. I don't think Carolina is a very good team. I think that they are probably going to be under 500. Just they may be 8-9 or 7-10. So I'm not saying that they're going to be a great team, but I think that they rally around for this cause, and that they actually come out of the gate.
I don't think that's right, Pags. I don't think that's right at all. They got a great running back in McCaffrey. They got a great defense.
Who gets overused and gets hurt.
True. That's true.
Well, last year, Carolina, I believe, was 5-12. But what people forget, they started the year 3-0. They looked like they were going to be they were trending towards the 3-0, and then to go like 2-12 after that. It's like, how does the wheels fall off like so quick? I guess not having McCaffrey, but it had to be like more than that.
But that
they had a fairly good defense. It was the offense that was sputtering. And once you lost McCaffrey, all you had to do was tee off on the quarterback, and the quarterback wasn't good enough. So that's where I kind of feel that some of the differences that they have a big upgrade in quarterback now, which is going to help them win a couple of more games. But I don't think it's going to be able to do enough for them to be able to be a playoff contending team.
It's funny about that. Okay, so Carolina has Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. They were the first 2 quarterbacks drafted the year they were drafted. Baker #1 overall, then Darnold not long after. And you think of the quarterbacks that came after them in that draft, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. So you never know, like with the order, that Mayfield and Darnold were actually rated ahead of Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson.
Was Josh Rosen also in that draft?
Rosen, I think Josh Rosen went right after Josh Allen. Yeah, I think Josh went number 11. I think he was the 4th one. Mayfield first, Darnold second, Josh Allen third, Josh Rosen, and then Lamar Jackson in that order. Josh Rosen, he reminds me of your guy from Philadelphia, Spider Rico. Is he still around? He's on some roster. I lost track.
Spider Rico?
You remember the Rocky movie? The Rocky movie. Remember that Rocky beats the guy in the beginning of Rocky 1? And that's okay. Spider Rico. So he goes, he tells the bartender, asks him who he fought last night. So Rocky said Spider Rico, and the bartender goes, is he still around?
Yep. Yeah, it's
so that's kind of Josh Rosen in the league.
Well, he just got cut again. He just got cut from a team, so he didn't make a roster this time.
Oh, I didn't know. Wow.
He was looking to get a backup job and did not get it. So, and I thought maybe that he would be, that the Eagles could consider him for a third quarterback because they only have 2. The Eagles signed somebody else, I think from. Who was it? It might have been from the Vikings roster or something like that. They pulled somebody off of a practice squad to put on their practice squad.
Josh Rosen didn't do too badly in his rookie year with Arizona, and they would have stuck with him for a second year after his rookie year. He wasn't a flop. That's what I'm trying to say. But then they got Kyler Murray. So when they got Kyler Murray, Josh Rosen was shipped off to Miami, and Brian Flores wasn't overly impressed with him there. He lost the starting job to Ryan Fitzpatrick there. Ryan Fitzpatrick, he had a kind of a checkered NFL career that lasted a long time, but he would start on and off in the league. Then he went to Atlanta, was supposed to back up Matt Ryan. He went before that, I think, to the 49ers. Man, he's been all over the place.
Yeah.
But when a guy
Fitzpatrick's played for what, 9 teams?
Well, I'm thinking of Josh Rosen now. But when a guy's been drafted in the top echelon of players in any year, it's like he's given a gold card that he could stick around the league for a while.
I don't know, Ryan. I don't know. You had I don't know. You had Ryan Leaf that fell apart his first year.
Well, that was personality with Ryan Leaf. They don't want to put up with a bad personality, a guy who's loud, boisterous, not good in the locker room. Something about Ryan Leaf.
I'm trying to remember that black quarterback too. I can't remember his name right now.
Achilles Smith many years ago.
Yes. He also was a bust in the first round. So, I mean, it happens.
Yeah, I mean, really, you could say that Goff was a bust in the first round. Although he's still with the team right now.
Wait, Goff.
And he did make it to a Super Bowl, but
the Lions.
Yeah,
he's the starter with the Lions.
He's not a bust. What are you talking about? The guy's been starting his whole career in the NFL.
Yeah,
he hasn't lost his starting job yet. He's not a bust. He hasn't been. He's been. You could call him a middle of the pack quarterback if you want. Okay, that's fine. That's good.
That's right. Thank you.
Jamarcus
Russell, man, oh man, he's an important part of current NFL history. Because of Jamarcus Russell, they put a cap on what rookies can get.
Right.
Okay, because the amount of money he got. So Jamarcus Russell actually was important to the NFL business structure. But you know what happened with Jamarcus Russell? That was an Al Davis selection. And Lane Kiffin reportedly, who was the head coach of the Raiders at the time, didn't like Jamarcus Russell at all. But Al Davis insisted they play him to a point, and eventually they had to move on from him. Jamarcus Russell, it didn't work out. Sometimes it doesn't work out with these highly rated guys.
It looks like Pags don't necessarily agree with that. Do you, Pags?
No, I'm talking about first round picks that were failures. All you have to do is take a look over at the Raiders and how they've dealt with their stuff and how many first-round picks are no longer even on the Raiders.
Because they draft guys in the first round who shouldn't have been drafted that high. That's why.
Well, Josh Jacobs, no longer. He was 2019. Jonathan Abram, no longer. He was cut. Henry Ruggs, unfortunate situation with him. Damon Arnett is also gone from there. And then Alex Leatherwood, who was the offensive tackle, didn't even stay for a second year. Cut after being picked.
I give the Raiders credit for this at least. Okay, they cut their losses. They say, a lot of teams keep a guy around because he was like highly drafted.
Oh, now you're going to talk about the Jet quarterback and maybe DeAndre Jones. That's what you're referring to, right?
The Jets drafted. The name escapes me at this moment. Maybe one of our listeners here will remind me of the name. The Jets drafted a quarterback from Penn State in the second round.
McSorley? Tracy McSorley?
No. I forgot his name. He didn't play even a down for the Jets.
Mecklenburg?
Something like that. I don't know why. It should click to me easily, but it's not, from Penn State, and it just didn't work out.
You're right, Pat.
Yeah, I think it was Mecklenburg. Because I know that Tracy McSorley also, I thought, or something like that, was also, I thought, a quarterback.
That sometimes happens, and sometimes someone is going to fool you in a certain situation. Look, when you draft a guy that high, you're nearly obligated to give him the job. There's an intriguing thing going on in San Francisco. Jimmy G's back for another year at least. The 49ers want Trey Lance to have the job. But what happened? Hackenberg. That's it.
I knew it was a Berg.
Right. Thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah. And but it's a little different. That was a second round selection. It's hard to move on from a second round pick that quick. Much harder, even the first rounder, because the GMs look bad. They don't want to make themselves look bad. So if you draft a guy in the first or second round and you cut him 1 year later, you got to answer to the owner. Well, why did you draft him that high? Why didn't we have better scouting? So you hold on to these guys under the hope that, well, maybe they're going to develop. We have to keep them nearly because we made this investment in them. But certain, you don't want to waste time with a guy either. Like the Giants with Daniel Jones. This is a make or break year for Daniel Jones. Either you give him a long-term deal after this year, get rid of him. You don't want at the end of this season figure, well, we're not sure whether Daniel Jones is a quarterback. But look what's going on at Seattle. Geno Smith was a Jets starting quarterback ages ago, and he actually has a starting job somewhere. That should be hope to any quarterback in the league that you could get in the right situation. I don't think Geno Smith is going to last that long. They're probably going to draft a quarterback at the end of the year, assuming that they're not going to have too good a record.
I assume that is exactly correct, and that's why that's why when you said that Russell Wilson should absolutely, he wants to go into Seattle and beat them. Well, he better beat them because they're going to stink out loud, tremendously. And if he was to lose to Seattle, I think that you could automatically, just on that game alone, say that whole transition to Denver is a failure.
But Pax, as they say, on any given Sunday, these are still professional athletes.
Yeah.
And they got a lot of pride and they got a lot of feelings. And, I don't count anybody out any Sunday, Pax.
Mac is right. There's one thing I virtually guarantee you guys, okay? And Mac, I'm sure, is going to agree with this. There's going to be at least one major surprise to us opening day, at least one where we're going to go like, wow. We're going to see like this underdog team winning 40-7, something like that we could never predicted.
Sure.
I don't know.
I'm going to go with that. I always believe that the first 2-3 weeks of a season and the last 2-3 weeks of a season are always crapshoots. That you could have some of those ridiculous scores that really don't follow any type of logic. And that's absolutely possible. And it usually happens, like I said, the first 2 weeks and the last 2 weeks. I think because of the way they do preseason now, that could extend up into the first 4 weeks of the season and then the last 2 weeks of the season. Obviously, nobody thought that Jacksonville had a chance against Indianapolis in the last week of the season last year, except Jacksonville. And that's because Jacksonville has had Indianapolis's number.
What you're saying, Pax, you're coming around. Congratulations. You're a little more flexible than I thought. So you're basically hinting that you think there's a possibility Carson Wentz might be player of the week after opening game, whatever player of the week, Carson Wentz.
I'm not sure who Washington's playing, but I guess that's feasible. I don't think so. The problem that I see and the things that I'm hearing from Washington is that they are shielding him in big ways, that they are hiding him from the media. And I don't know, how long does that last? If you're the starting quarterback of a professional football team, you're going to wind up getting criticism. And whether they're shielding him right now or not, eventually he's going to have to face the fire. And that's where things are going to start to go a little funny. I feel that, if you are so soft that you are having a hard time dealing with just the criticism that somebody's saying about you. I feel that if you are an NFL quarterback, you need to have a little bit of an ego, that you need to be able to stand up a little bit taller and be above all the naysayers, because there's going to be haters everywhere. everywhere. You know, and that's what happens. And that's what happens. The moment that you start to get success, that there's going to be somebody telling you how much you didn't succeed. And of course, those guys are always louder than your.
No, yeah, but let me give an example with the Eagles. Now the Eagles are trending in the right direction. You'd think that they're going to be better than last year, even though the season record might not look that much better because they were 9-8. So how much better is the season record going to look? If, maybe 11-6, maybe 10-7, 11-6, but whatever. But they are going to be better, you would think. Sometimes teams seem to be trending upward, and then it kind of falls apart. Like what the Washington Commanders, they won their division last year. They were supposed to be an improved team over the year before, and things fell apart. Maybe we should be looking that way with the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals have always had a losing record, and all of a sudden they show up and win the Super Bowl. Get to the Super Bowl last year. So everyone is assuming, the Bengals are going to be in contention again. Maybe the Bengals go back to being the same losing team. Maybe it was a little bit of an aberration.
I don't know, Jack.
I don't
know, Jack. You're talking different players. You're talking the different talent, the better talent. Joe Burrows, the great wide receiver they have there. You're talking. This is a total overhaul of what that team.
They lost with Joe Burrow in his first year, though. It's
the
second year they broke through.
Yeah, but that was partly because he got injured too, right, Jack? He broke what, or had an ACL or whatever. So that's partly the reason.
But we don't know how it plays out. For example, Jalen Hurts is the starter for the Eagles. Tua Tagovailoa, he's the starter for the Miami Dolphins. And right at this moment, you'd have to rate Jalen Hurts ahead of Tua right at this moment.
I don't know.
But keep this in mind. No, just at the moment, what they've done in the NFL, just a little bit, and they both got great supporting casts of receivers, both guys, okay? So they have the weapons all set in place for them. But keep this in mind, in college, Nick Saban, after Jalen Hurts was his quarterback for so long, replaced him with Tua. He sat Hurts down. That's why Hurts transferred. Right. So maybe that tells us that Tua has more long-range potential, is going to be better in the long run. If someone like Nick Saban, who saw them practice each day, it's just food for thought.
I don't know.
See, I look at it the opposite way. I think Nick Saban cares only about Nick Saban, and he wants the immediate return, not the longevity return. And I think that was the issue with that. I don't think it had anything to do with that whatsoever. I think Jalen Hurts has got a lot of intangibles. He's got a lot of the things that make a great quarterback in the NFL. The one thing he doesn't have is the arm strength. And I know that, and everybody else seems to know that. And until he proves otherwise, that's going to be the call on Jalen Hurts.
But Pags, Joe Montana didn't have tremendous arm strength either. He just knew when to get rid of the ball. He hit him in stride. He threw it a little bit faster.
And with Peyton Manning, man.
Yeah, exactly. So that's not the tell-all. You got to be smart, right? You got to be smarter than them. You got to read faster, and that's normally what puts you above the rest of the quarterback.
That is correct. But because he has so many of the other intangibles that you can't, there's a lot of things that when you're an NFL quarterback that are inherent, you can't teach. The pocket presence, the NFL, like the football acumen is not easily taught. You have to know that. Like I said, you could learn some things, but some of the things you can't. It's automatic. It's inherent in a lot of these quarterbacks, and these great quarterbacks. These are things that they already have available to them that they don't have to be taught. And I feel like that's part of what makes Jalen Hurts so great. He did have a coach as a father, a quarterback's coach as a father. He's been able to improve because he's had the want and the Brady. He's like, okay, I want to go to the same coach that Brady goes to. So he was out working with Brady in the offseason. So if you want to be the best, you go learn and you listen to the guy who is the best and who's showing him and who's teaching him. So there's a lot of things that I like that Jalen Hurts does. Obviously, like I said, if the accuracy doesn't improve, if the arm strength, which like I said, I don't believe that ever does improve. I think that you have what you have. Those are the things that are going to be what he's most criticized about. But if he wins games, it doesn't matter. Winning cures all.
Of course.
Yes, sometimes Mac mentioned the arm strength. Sometimes the arm strength is the intangible. Take Malik Willis from Liberty, small program compared to the big schools.
Right.
They drafted him with the thought, wow, he has a rifle for an arm. So that is his intangible. With a guy with that type of arm, what he might actually develop to. Another thing that fascinates me, guys, a player gets cut from one team and another team just as good or even better jumps on him to pick him up. I could think of something in football and baseball. Sony Michel was cut by the Miami Dolphins. He's from Miami. That had to break his heart, but he's picked up by the LA Chargers to be part of their roster. And the Chargers are considered on a par with the Miami Dolphins, basically. Whoever you think is better, whoever is going to go further, that's a matter of opinion. But the consensus, I'm sure, would be that they're pretty close. But the Chargers jumped on getting Sony Michel, and he just came from the Rams, who'd won the Super Bowl. Yeah. And came from New England before that. The man has a couple of Super Bowl rings to his credit. Think of that. Just like in baseball, the Yankees move on from Joey Gallo, and he's in the Dodgers starting lineup. Are you kidding me? I mean, that doesn't make sense. You wonder whether Joey Gallo would have a job anywhere in the major leagues. And there he is, parting with the elite company, the LA Dodgers.
And going from the Yankees, where he was part of that team that won all those games, and then the moment he leaves, they stink, and he's going to the Dodgers, who are the first team to get to 90. So, I mean, there's a lot to be said about, maybe it's just the presence in the locker room that helps out. That intangible is something that's got to be thought about. And that's part of the thing. Beyond the fact that Jason Kelce, and I'm going to go to him, Jason Kelce is a great center and likely, I think, going to be a Hall of Famer when they start to, when he gets that opportunity. But one of the things that I feel is the thing that probably best puts him on this team is the fact that he is he's the guy that people look to when you want to get inspired. That he is one of those guys that knows his words really well and is able to inspire the team. And I think that intangible is beyond.
That's a matter of opinion. You cannot call it a fact. 1 + 1 = 2. That's a fact. Whether he inspires people, that's an opinion. That's not a fact.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? It's been reported plenty of times here. Again, check your resources before you start talking, Jack. Obviously, I know what I'm talking about, and you do not. So, yes, it's been reported a number of times that Jason Kelce is tremendous in the locker room, not only as a teammate, but as an inspiration across the board.
Yeah, and that was probably talk in the beginning about Carson Wentz's leadership with the Eagles in the beginning.
No, and first off, the beginning was 11 years ago, Jack. He's been on this team for 11 years.
You never heard me say that what Keith Hernandez said about Philadelphia and the fans was that.
Bam. We went from 8 to 3. It's amazing how you do that, Jack.
Even Keith Hernandez said it's his opinion that Philadelphia plays a sloppy brand of baseball, that he does. It's his opinion. He doesn't like watching them, and he doesn't like the city of Philadelphia. It seems a great deal, but that's his opinion.
Right.
Okay?
Right. We don't like him either, and that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, but listen, I was speaking of baseball. I just want to detour a little bit. I was watching the Met Dodger games, and I'm going to tell you guys, it's been a while since I felt this buzz in Citi Field, and I'm watching it on TV. It seemed to be electric in Citi Field, maybe because it's the Dodgers and there's such great talent on the field. But last night, when Brandon Nimmo, wraps the Dodgers of a home run, which was a difference maker. DeGrom is back being DeGrom. And even Steve, it's interesting. Even Steve Cohen, the owner, says DeGrom is the best pitcher in baseball. He's got shirts on his staff even, and he didn't care about someone else's feelings. Because, listen, in all honesty, if everyone is at their best, DeGrom is the best pitcher in baseball. He's better than Schertz, and Schertz is great.
Yeah.
You could say Schertz is maybe a top 5 pitch in baseball. I'm not going to argue with you on
And
that.
Jack, I told you Cole was a bum. I told you he was
Cole has pitched well for the Yankees.
Oh, he's a bum.
Yeah.
He just got killed last time he pitched, Jack. He's a bum. I don't know.
Cole pitched well. Cole
I
pitched well. Well, let me take a look. Was it last night? Wait a second, Mac.
So while he's talking about that, yes, I can imagine that the Dodgers Mets series had a playoff style atmosphere across the board.
Wow, he's a real bum. Wait a second. Cole pitched 7 innings yesterday and gave up 2 earned runs in 7 innings, 6 hits. Not great, but he walked only 1 batter. Struck out 4. So, okay, gave up 2 runs in 7 innings. I mean, Yankees were sloppy. They made certain errors. I mean, Cole has been good for the Yankees on balance. Has he been great? No, but he's been good. He's been an all-star 3 years. He has 6 years left on that expensive $36 million a year deal. But I'm going to tell you something. If the year ended right now and the Yankees had a choice to get out from under that contract, $36 million a year the next 6 years, or enforce the contract, they would enforce it. Okay, they would. I mean, he's been worth it. He hasn't been great, but he's been pretty good. He's been a B+, A- for the Yankees. They won an A, but it's what it is.
Maybe.
No, and like I said, it was
like making him out to be, Mac. He hasn't been the ace you want him to be. He hasn't quite been the ace. No. Okay, he hasn't been like
the Yankees. He pitched last night or the night before?
Last night.
No, couldn't have been last night. He couldn't have given up 2 runs because they had a 3-run home run.
No, I mean, he gave up 2 runs in 7 innings. I mean, it's whatever. I wouldn't trade Garrett Cole for Zach Wheeler, for example. He's the Philly ace, right, Pax?
Yes. That and Nola, I mean, obviously going back and forth.
So flop him in a sense, but I wouldn't trade Garrett Cole for either guy. And you want to know something? I bet if money wasn't an issue at all, and the Yankees called and offered Garrett Cole for either one of those 2 guys, I think the Phillies make the deal. Not unhesitatingly, they figure, wow, we hate to part with Wheeler. That's a tough one. It wouldn't be a snap decision, but I think
because again, it's a money situation too. I mean, obviously, I think that the Yankees overpaid for him, and he hasn't lived up to the $36 million a year. That's where I feel like that the argument is really slated. If he was $25 million a year, I think that then he's absolutely worth all of that. That extra $11 million is where that really comes into play. I don't think that he's worth that.
Because the Yankees screwed it up. They didn't give Cole their best possible offers, early when he was a free agent, and they could have gotten him early in his career. They did the same nonsense with Judge. They're letting it go. And now if the Yankees want to keep Judge, they're going to have to pay a much heavier price. I mean, it's just what it is. I mean, it's the art of negotiation. You make the right deal at the right time. Unless you have all the money in the world like Steve Cohen, then you figure, okay, I'll deal with it at the time. What you heard what's going on with A-Rod since we're on baseball. He was supposed to be a co-owner of the Minnesota Timberwolves, making the decisions, but because he broke up with J-Lo, the money might not be there from his end. So he might be a minority owner, the vice president there, not entitled. You'll have the other owner, and he's got to answer to the other owner, and the other owner might like A-Rod enough to allow him in on decision-making, but whenever he wants to pull the plug on A-Rod would be gone as a Timberwolf owner as far as making decisions.
That J-Lo is something No, that's a mean woman. That woman.
No. She had the money. A-Rod needed her money
Still.
to pay his share. Now he's scurrying all over the place.
Well, I mean, that's really him in general. Obviously he's been irrelevant since he got out of baseball too, and hey, good for him. I hope that whatever happens over there is A-Rod doesn't even move the needle on my radar.
A-Rod's a basketball fan. I mean, what does he know? But I'll tell you this with the Timberwolves. Timberwolves are a serious contender with getting Rudy Gobert, because having Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell, that team's ready to, they're ready to cause some big impact in the Western Division. They were good last year. They're ready to take another step now with Gobert and Anthony Edwards having that extra year. I mean, and Karl Anthony Towns totally refocused. I'd look out for the Timberwolves.
Yeah, I mean, they absolutely brought the Grizzlies to the brink last year before the Grizzlies wound up going to the conference finals. I think that Ja Morant is going to have a little bit more to say about that. Is his second year in the league. He's going to have a little bit more going on for him. It's going to be interesting all the way around. The West is going to have, I think, a much more difficult time getting into that top 4 or 5 teams. That it's going to be a fight. Whoever's in those top 5 is going to be a hard fight to get there. Obviously, obviously you have the Warriors that are still going to be in that mix. Dallas is going to have a little bit to say about that too. Dallas actually, I thought
a little bit, not a lot, a little bit.
Well, I'm talking, and Phoenix being in the top 5. Utah is going to have a resurgence.
Still, Phoenix, Golden State. I kind of wonder, is it going to get ugly in Lakerland if they have a similar year to last year? Because what if the Lakers really done to upgrade themselves? They got Patrick Beverly, a good defender who brings attitude, but he's not a big difference maker. He's a good fill-in if the team's already good. He's a meaningful pickup. So the thing, with Anthony Davis, he's just got to be healthy and play for the year. I mean, and have a big year. That's the only way the Lakers have any type of turnaround. And then you look at the Clippers. Is Kawhi Leonard going to be healthy? Are they going to make a comeback? And there's Denver Nuggets. Are they going to have a breakthrough? I mean, there's so many kind of storylines. We know Utah is no longer. They're not going to be a contender next year.
Do you guys think that the East is still good as the West? I mean, I think they got a better defensive teams than the West has. And I still think they can compete with the West. I think they're just as good.
The elite teams, but there are more teams in the West, I think, that could make an impact. I mean, the Nets are question mark, but they picked up McKee from Morris from the Miami Heat, who was injured last year, but he's a presence, rebounding toughness. That's a good pickup there. But listen, if Durant and Kyrie are 100% focused all year long and ready to play, and the other, and Ben Simmons.
That's not going to happen.
Not with all 3 of them. Listen. Ben Simmons, I have serious doubts about. I can't say with any confidence he's going to come ready to play or even play. Right. I have no clue. But if Kyrie and Durant, I could see them being focused. Durant's going to show up. He's a pro. Even though he might say things, demand things, he's going to play hard on the court. I think Kyrie Irving wants a big contract, and he understands that if he doesn't produce next year, he's not getting that big contract from anyone. He needs that big year. So I think he's going to produce based on that alone. And Ben Simmons is the wild card. If by some chance Ben Simmons decides, I'm ready to play, I'm giving 100%, combined with the other 2, they can be a force. But listen, even with Pags' 76ers, we don't know how much Harden has left in the tank. We know Harden is still a good player and can be a good player next year. but can he be the old James Harden? If he's the old James Harden from the Houston Rockets, the Sixers can win the NBA title. But if he's just a good James Harden past his peak, they're probably not. And then there's Milwaukee with Giannis and Middleton, and we'll see. They're intriguing storylines. Celtics too. What's Jaylen Brown's feeling, knowing that the Celtics were going to trade him for Durant? Is he going to be ticked off? Is he going to, buy into the Celtic culture next year? I don't know.
Well, probably to prove him wrong, right, Jack? I mean, probably he's going to say, "Listen, this. I am who I am. I'm going to prove you wrong this year."
Well, let's say you and I were making the decision and we were looking to replace Pags with one of those guys in ESPN. Pags was offered in a trade. They were looking to trade. Would Pags come back with the same attitude and enthusiasm, okay, for future shows? I mean, we don't know.
I bring it every play of every game all day. Right. It doesn't matter who I'm playing for. I'm bringing it. So, yeah, you could say whatever you'd like. I know that I would bring it to the table. That being said, I'll be honest. I think there's a big difference between the way the West plays basketball and the way the East plays basketball. I feel that there's defense more on the Eastern side of the Eastern side. Rather than the Western side, and that there's more of an inside game that deals on the East than the West. I feel that really Boston could have done more last year had they stuck to that game rather than try to play three ball with the Warriors. I don't think you could ever play three ball when it comes to that team. So,
do you blame the coach for that, Pax? Everybody says, "Oh, the coach is great and everything." Do you blame the coach for coming away from that style? You have to, right?
I think that the players start to do what they think they need to do in the game, and it doesn't matter how much you're telling them to do what they need to do. It becomes more of, we got to catch up, we got to catch up, we got to catch up. I'm a firm believer that when you're shooting 60% from two and the other team is shooting 40% from three, you're going to win that game most of the time at 60% from two. So just my opinion.
Speaking of basketball, the University of Davidson, Steph Curry's alma mater, they had this whole big thing for him where they had a special graduation ceremony for him, where he got his diploma and all. And then they had a ceremony where they retired his number. I think it was number 30. It's a nice
I thought it was number 3.
Number 3, I'm sorry. Whatever. I'm not big on retired numbers. I mean, an exception would be maybe Major League Baseball retiring Jackie Robinson's number symbolically. I could understand something like that. Maybe Babe Ruth, someone who transcended the game, but we've gotten a little carried away. I know if I'm a player myself, this is my feeling. Let's say I was a great player. The team wanted to retire my number. I tell the team, I don't want my number retired, but I want to be able to approve anyone using my number. If at any point I don't want that player to have my number because I don't like what he's doing, his actions, I want that number, him not to be able to be used, okay? But you retire the number. I could understand it's in the rafters, but why can't they just have your name in the rafters like a ring of honor or give it another name so your name is still hanging in the rafters? Why put the number, make it inactive forever? I was never the biggest fan of that.
Well, and I agree, especially like you look at the Yankees. Pretty soon they're going to run out of numbers. They're going to have to start going to 3-digit numbers.
Paul O'Neill. Paul O'Neill was a wonderful player for the Yankees. Paul O'Neill, outstanding player for the Yankees, but he was never a superstar per se.
I don't know. I say Paul O'Neill was much better than Keith Hernandez, just in general. Just my opinion. Damn, even I do it. The moment I said his name, lost some viewers. Tell you, it's
their respective teams. I'm gonna tell you. I mean, Hernandez. I was a Yankee fan. I think Hernandez meant more to the Mets than O'Neill to the Yankees because, let me finish, the Yankees had Darryl Strawberry. They could have slotted him in right field, got him more at-bats. He was there for 3 of the Yankee championship teams. So I feel I don't want to say Paul O'Neill was more replaceable, but Keith Hernandez was considered more of a fixture there at first base. Slightly more than O'Neill was in right field for the Yankees.
Yeah, and I like I said, the only year that they won the championship, Darryl was on that team, right? Darryl Strawberry was on there, and so was Lenny Dykstra.
The Mets 86.
You know, Carter. They had.
Keith Hernandez.
Keith Hernandez. Like I said, he was the afterthought on that team. He wasn't even. He wasn't even in the top 5 best player on that team. So that's really all I got to say about that.
That was Gooden, Gary Carter, Keith Hernandez, Darryl Strawberry. They were like the big fixtures. Bernie Williams slightly better than Paul O'Neill. It's a matter of opinion.
I agree with that.
I don't know what I agree with that because Paul O'Neill was an outstanding defensive.
Yeah, but Bernie playing center field had to cover more territory than Paul O'Neill, and the arms just about the same, and the bats just about the same.
So you're saying automatically a center fielder. Whoever plays center field, they're more valuable. They're better because they played center field.
I would think so. I would think so, Jack.
I definitely put Bernie Williams as a much better player than Keith Hernandez. Keith Hernandez, of course, didn't need to move much at all. Playing first baseman, and he was just terrible.
Bags is relentless.
Bernie was outstanding. It's a shame certain players, like you talk about the Hall of Fame with Bernie Williams, he had something like 2,600 and something hits. And sometimes it's frustrating. Same way it was with Johnny Damon. If they could have had a couple of more years, if they got up to 3,000 hits, wow, that would have made a great case for the Hall of Fame for those guys, just the number of hits they wound up doing. But listen, sometimes it's who you know. Jerry Reisendorf, I realize we're running out of time. He had the owner of the White Sox. He kind of wanted to do something for Harold Baines, him and Tony La Russa, because he'd left the White Sox, Baines, and they kind of wished he was a White Sox. So they went to the Veterans Committee, and they pushed to get him in the Hall of Fame, and it actually succeeded, getting Harold Baines in there.
Okay.
Oh, and there you have it. I'm not a big fan of Tony La Russa in general. So, like I said, I wish him well. I hope he gets better. Obviously, he's out right now on medical leave from the team. So, again, I don't wish any ill will on anybody. I just don't like him as a manager. I can't stand guys who think that they invented the game, and he's definitely one of those guys who thinks that he is bigger than the game is.
Agreed.
So that's how I feel about that. But our 2 hours is up. Obviously, we talked about Keith Hernandez more than anybody else, so I apologize for that right now because we lost most of our viewers. I apologize because I know that everybody gets tired of hearing about New York. Nobody wants to talk about New York at all. Just they all they do is choke in the end. That's what the Yankees are doing now. And now we started September.
26 World Series proves that. They choked that.
I think 27, exactly. But listen, the Yankees are going to, unless there's a total collapse, they're going to the playoffs. Anything could happen in the playoffs. I didn't think they'd get to the playoffs this year, so I certainly can't look at it as an unsuccessful season if they've made the playoffs.
Well, I guess you could think about it however you'd like. In the meantime, we'll be back tomorrow with another Mac and Jack show. Everybody have a great day.